universe fans, it's me, Pete. I'm here again with another deck vid, and this one's a little bit more special. We are coming to the Grand Clash. That's right, the Agents of Sigmar are coming to the Grand Clash. You probably already know that. And this is the beginning of my journey on picking my deck for the Grand Clash. Now, on Friday, Robin and I are going to be having a game, and we're going to do it slightly differently to normal. We're going to be having a 3-game, hour and 30-minute tournament style affair, so it's going to be a slightly more cut down thing than you'd be normally used to, but it does mean you're going to get 3 games out. Hopefully you'll get it over 3 days. So all that being said, what deck am I taking? Well, at the minute I'm probably going to take Sepulchral Guard. I do like my Khorne, but I just feel like Sepulchral Guard are going to give me the flexibility that I want here. Having said that, I'm going for a very specialist deck, so I'm going to be going objectives based. Now I'm going to add up front, anybody who's going to the tournament, you're not allowed to listen to this, alright, because it's got my deck and everything in it, and you're not allowed to see it. So if you do see it and then you beat me at the tournament, then I'm claiming a moral victory. So nah. Anyway, having said that and got out the other way, let's move on to the deck that I'm going to be picking. So start with objectives in the usual fashion. I'm going to be going, as I said, with a more objective based and less offensive deck for this outing and for this tournament. I just feel that Sepulchral Guard's numbers mean that they're going to be good at the objective grabbing game, and it's hard for your opponent to stop you grabbing objectives in any way other than killing you. As I can bring people back, that's probably going to make it even harder for people to manage. So we'll see. Anyway, this is what I'm starting with, and I'll probably do an update after the first batch of games Robin and I played to see if I plan on changing that at all. So here we go. My first card is Battle Without End. Scoring an end phase of 2 or more of my friendly fighters, I return to the battlefield. My logic here being, if my opponent is going offensive and they start ripping my guys apart left, right and centre, I can get a glory just by bringing them back from the dead. Serves 2 purposes, brings my guys back and gets me a glory. The second one, Claim the City. It is a big one, and I score this in the end phase if I hold every objective. Now, there's a little bonus here in that if my opponent has something like Desecrate or Plunder or whatever the Orc one's called, and they take an objective out, I've only got to capture 4, and I can score this in any end phase, not just the third end phase, and it's 5 glory. Scoring that on the first end phase would be pretty sweet. Next one's March of the Dead. Pretty standard affair. Score this in an end phase if all of my fighters, at least 5, have made a move action. That's usually fairly easy to get, and hopefully be one that I'll be utilising anyway with my manoeuvrability, so shouldn't be something that throws me off on my current course too much. Skills Unforgotten. Now this is a slight break from the norm, and it's an offensive card. I score immediately if my leader takes an enemy fighter out of action. I figure if I'm up against Khorne, I go for one of the Chuckle Brothers. If I'm against Sepulchral Guard, I go for a Petitioner. If I'm against Oryx or Stormcast, I don't try doing anything at all, and I just run away. It's a score immediately card, which means I might be able to get it in the first phase, and that will help me try and boost some of my guys up early. Next one is Determined Defender. That was a pretty easy one for Sepulchral Guard. There'll be objectives all over the place I'm going to stand on. All I've got to do is have one of my Petitioners stand on one of them for 2 turns, and I'm good to go. Divide and Conquer. I figure that my opponent's probably going to be coming after me. I'm probably going to be moving around on his side. I've only got to get 1 guy on each half for both of them. That should be a fairly easy one to score. I think the only time I might struggle with that would be Stormcast, so I'm hoping that will enable me to keep my manoeuvrability up, and will pretty much not matter what my opponent's going to be doing, because he's going to be moving around looking for objectives, or he's going to be looking to smash my head in. Flawless Strategy. Score in an end phase if I score 2 or more of my objectives. I'm hoping that my objectives are going to be scoreable enough that if I get that as well, that's just another one scored. And as it's another glory, that's a plus. Ploy Master. Score in an end phase if I play 3 or more ploys in the preceding action phase. But again, my opponent can't really stop me playing them, so as long as I actually get the chance to play 3, then that's another glory in the bag. Superior Tactician. This is an third end phase card, and if I score 6 or more objectives, I get 3 glory. I'm hoping that my objectives are going to be such that I'll be able to score them most of the time, and in that case, it's 3 more glory. Supremacy. Now, whilst I said I've had an objective-based deck, I haven't actually had any hold objective cards yet, but this is where it changes. Supremacy. Score in an end phase if I hold 3 or more objectives. Rather than having score more hold objectives 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, which is 3 objectives cards to 3 glory, I've got 1 objectives card to 3 glory there. And then my last one, Tactical, my last 2 in fact, Tactical Supremacy 1 and 2, and Tactical Supremacy 3 and 4. Again, rather than having the hold 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 cards, I can have these cards here. I might be able to score multiple ones at once, Tactical Supremacy 1, 2, or 3 and 4 alongside Supremacy, and it means that I'm only taking up 3 cards in my deck with hold objectives rather than 5. Plus they're slightly higher scoring, so the average per card glory is a little higher than if I was to just have hold objective 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now there's some objective cards that I didn't take in this, along with the hold objectives 1 to 5. One that I thought about for a little while was Victorious Duel, which is taking out your opponent's leader, and it's always nice if your leader does that. It's very cinematic. However, I figured that it's almost impossible versus Stormcast and Oryx, and not exactly easy against Khorne either, so I decided not to do that one. Denial I toyed with for a very short period of time, but chances of trying to block my opponent off are fairly slim. They'll be able to punch a hole fairly quickly and run through. Harvest Begins was another one. I just don't think it's very possible with a Harvester, purely because of the rolls that you need and the odds on those rolls. It's definitely a card that I'd think of if I had an offensive deck, but I think it's something that's going to be better to use alongside something like Mighty Swing with the Sepulchral Guard or the Champion instead. And Invigorated Dead was another one I thought of, but all inspired? Really? That's nearly friggin' impossible. You just got to be sitting there bringing people back from the dead and nothing else. And it's 1 glory. Nah, I'm not doing that for 1 glory, that's just too much. The last one was Fearless in Death. Now, while you only need to have basically die and not bring anybody back, you have to have 1 guy left, 1 at the very end, just 1. And it seems a bit unfair for 1 glory. I think it should be a 2 glory objective really in my books. But anyway, those are ones that I considered for a little while and then discarded. So with my glory, I need to work out what I'm going to spend it on. I'm going to spend it on these, hopefully. So here are my upgrades. Ancient Commander. Choose 3 or more friendly fighters to move rather than just 2, which will be handy for the March of the Dead objective. And it also just means my overall manoeuvrability will increase by 50%. Frightening Speed. It's not just speed, it's frightening. It's frightening speed is what it is. +2 move on Harvester, Champion or Prince. That's never a bad thing. Grim Cleave on the Harvester. This fighter's attack gains the Cleave special rule. Now whilst that is no good against Sepulchral Guard and Khorne, it maybe comes in very handy against Oryx and Stormcast, and if I want to try and do some damage, then I need to try and take away their shield save ability, and that'll give me that. Remembered Shield for the Warden, Prince or Petitioner. This fighter's defense characteristic changes to a shield, so that turns your 1/3 chance of stopping an attack with a dodge and a crit into a half chance, which is 2 shields and a crit instead. That's almost definitely going to go on my Warden if I get it. Undying, a +1 wound, always nice, and almost definitely going to go on either my Warden or maybe my Champion, depending on where he is. And Great Fortitude. I know that's pretty much like Undying as well, but +1 wound's never a bad thing. And I'll be honest, I struggled to pick 10 upgrades here, so that was my 10th card. Great Strength, +1 damage to all attacks, always nice, I'm never going to complain about that one. That would almost definitely go on my Warden or my Champion. At a pinch, possibly my Harvester if I'm coming up against either Sepulchral Guard or against Khorne. Shadeglass Darts. I know it's a firm favourite of Robin's. 3 swords, 1 damage, and if you roll a crit, which you're about just under 50% chance to do on 3 dice, you get +1 damage. That's probably going to go on somebody like a Petitioner, or maybe my Prince, who's going to stand behind the lines and just really harass somebody who's maybe trying to stay out of the way and not get killed, or just try and put my opponent under some pressure. And then my last 2 here, fairly obvious ones, are the Dazzling Key and the Shadow Key. Now, depending on where the objectives are on the field, obviously 2 and 4 are the ones that I'm after. If I can get one of those, hopefully if I can get one of those on my side, I might be able to go along with that, as well as Determined Defender, as well as maybe Supremacy or Tactical Supremacy. Get that at the end as well, or one of those, or maybe even both if I'm lucky, and I'll be rolling in glory. I'll be coining it in. So those are my upgrades. Now again, as with objectives, there were some upgrades that I considered that I decided to not take in the end. One of those, or the first one of the last cards for me to discard, was Cursed Artifact. I really had the idea in my head that I could use it on my opponent, and in the game that Robin and I played recently, we did use it on each other instead. but since then we've kind of come to the conclusion that you can't really play it on the opponent, so for that reason I decided to get rid of it. Another one I got rid of was Deathly Charge. It's great, it does +1 damage, but only on a charge. Now, if you combine that with Great Strength, that's possibly a much nicer +2 damage, but it's just +1 damage on a charge. You can only do one of those with that person. With this Greater Strength, you can do +1 damage, attack after attack after attack if you just stand still. So for that reason I decided to get the more generic +1 damage card. The next one I decided to get rid of was Fatal Strike. It'd be nice, but another champion only upgrade, and I just don't want to try and lock myself down to really specific upgrades very much. I know I have done with some, but tried to with not too many. Lethal Lunge, which +1 damage, and Cleave, which is nice. But once the Warden becomes inspired, it's only the Cleave, in fact, at the end of the day. It's not even the +1 damage. Now, whilst I'm hoping to res people and get him inspired, I just don't feel like he's going to be doing a lot of killing. He's going to be hiding a lot, and he's going to be just moving people around for the most part. And again, it's a Warden specific card, and I didn't want to put too many eggs in the one basket. Now, I didn't take Great Speed or Legendary Speed, because I already have Terrifying Speed for +1 movement, and when I had to pick another upgrade card, I figured I'd be better off getting +1 wound than I would +1 movement. I might regret that, and I might want to swap it out, but at the moment, yeah, I just had to go that way really. And Demonic Weapon. I just couldn't find the space in the end. I did want this card. I could possibly swap it out for the Great Strength, but the problem is with the 1 damage each time, and all my guys are low wound, whilst it'd be nice to use it, have them die, and then resurrect them again, that's not going to happen often, I think, and I just didn't have the space in the end to take it. So anyway, those are all my upgrades, and onto my ploys at the end. So hopefully I get loads of these out at the beginning, and I'll be able to use them all to firmly cement my winning strategy. Now my first card is Dance Macabre. Any friendly fight that makes a move in the next action can move 1 additional hex. Obviously that will be brilliant with Ancient Commander, and will help me with March of the Dead as well. Restless Dead, bring a friendly fighter back that was taken out of action. That will help me immensely with my Battle Without End objective, because then I can use that card and I can just bring somebody back. That's 2, and that will give me that objective. Terrifying Screams. Choose an enemy fighter and push from 1 hex. I want to try and dominate movement or manoeuvrability as much as I can here, and whilst I'm slow, I've got numbers which helps me push people back, and that card will help me keep people out of my face. It'll help me push a Stormcast or a Gerzag away if they've moved into line ready to just sit there swinging left, right and centre. It'll also help me if somebody stands on an objective that I really want to push them away. The Necromancer Commands. If I do attack, I'm probably really going to want it to hit. If I miss, that's going to be devastating, so that gives me a chance to have another swing at people. Almost definitely going to be my Warden or my Champion that will get used on. Confusion. Switch 2 players that are adjacent to each other. Now whilst I'll almost definitely use that to steal an objective off of someone standing on one if I can, I might use that with, say, my Warden and a Petitioner, or my Warden and somebody else to move in a position so he can use his spear to attack somebody that was initially out of range, or maybe I'll use it to move somebody who's injured on my opponent's side a little bit closer. Daylight Robbery. I used this against Robin once. It's a 50-50 card and it went off. Now I know it's only a 50-50 card and it will probably never go off for me ever again, because that's how my odds work. But I loved using it. It's a way to suddenly turn a 1 glory defeat into a 1 glory win, and it's a filthy card and I love it, and that's why I'm going to take it. Fortify. Friendly fighters holding objectives, which I'm hopefully going to be doing a lot of, get +1 defense. Now there's nothing I like more than giving my guys more defense, and if my opponent looks like he's going to try and come in for a last minute attack to push someone away and I really need to hold that objective, that's the card I'm going to want to have. Healing Potion. Can't go wrong with a Healing Potion. Does what it says on the tin. 1 wound back at least, maybe 2. For most of my guys who only have 3 or 2 wounds, well, the main guys are going to be 3 wounds, an extra 2 wounds back could be an absolute, if you'll pardon the pun, lifesaver. Sidestep. Choose a friendly fighter and push them 1 hex. Extra manoeuvrability is going to be key for me. If I can get really close and at the last minute just quickly pop onto an objective, that'll be really handy. And Sprint. Nothing to say there really. Double somebody's movement. If I use that in line with Dance Macabre and maybe a few other plus movement, I could turn somebody into a veritable rocket and fling them across the table in case my opponent has buried an objective in their rear zone, and I really need it, say objective 2 or 4 perhaps. And again, with the ploys, there were some that I just could not take, and others that I just did not want to lose. I had about 11 at the end, and I ummed and ahed for absolutely ages, and the one I had to get rid of last was bone shrapnel. I wanted to keep it really badly, because I really wanted that +1 damage should one of my guys get taken out, because one of my guys is going to get taken out. But at the end of the day, I'm going for manoeuvrability, I'm going for objectives, and I just couldn't justify taking that extra little bit of offense. Maybe I'm going to regret that, maybe I'll have to swap something out and get rid of one of my manoeuvrable cards. I'll have to see how it plays. I didn't take distraction because I had terrifying screams already, so I already had something to push people away. I wanted to take forceful denial or cruel taunt because I like the way both of those cards can really play with your opponent. Cruel taunt because if your opponent gets an inspired Angrad, then it'd be priceless to take that away from them. Or if Gerzak gets inspired, it'd just be nice to get rid of his ability. But I just couldn't justify either in the end because they're both 50-50s, and I could not take them in the end. I didn't want to go to a 22 card deck, so I had to cut them out. Another one I got rid of was Ceaseless Attack. Now again, I'm going for objective based grabbing, I'm not going for offensive, so I had to take that out. I think if I was going more offensive, I might look to put that back in and remove some of the manoeuvring cards, but yeah, not at the moment. I also really fancied Trust to Luck and Jewel of Wits, but again I just couldn't validate putting them in my deck and boosting the size of my deck up that much. I mean, Trust to Luck and Jewel of Wits, if you could get both of those out, expanding your hand size really early on and then getting rid of a load and picking new ones could really help you cycle through. But if you take both of those cards, you've then got to take 2 more upgrades, and I already struggled to think of upgrades that I really wanted. So I just had to get rid of those in the end. Maybe I'll try a 24 card deck and stick both of those in with a couple of other generic upgrades like +1 movement and things. Maybe that'd help. Time Trap. Now this one I really ummed and ahed over, and whilst I used to really love the idea of Time Trap, I've kind of fallen out of love with it in an objective based deck. I think because your opponent's going to get pretty much 2 chances to react after you get 2 chances in a row, means that just being able to move a load of guys isn't that great. Your opponent then gets 2 turns to sit there swatting people away again. Were I taking an offensive deck, I might take Time Trap, so I could do the old 1-2 with maybe the Warden and a Champion to take out somebody early on. That could be quite devastating to my opponent, but in the objective deck I've gone for, couldn't justify it in the end. Spectral Form was the other card that I didn't take in the end. Because most of my guys only moved 2, that's effectively just a bit of a leapfrog moment, just to move behind somebody, and that's not exactly the most useful thing. You're still going to be next to them, they're still going to be able to hit you. I've not had a situation yet where I just need to get onto the other side of somebody. Normally it's a much bigger distance that I need to close. Something like that, and there's a Khorne version of Spectral Form, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it enables you to move through people, and I could see that being much more useful for Khorne. Having said that, all of my guys inspire, then move 3. Maybe I might find a situation where I might need it, but I don't know. For now, I'm going to put that to one side. Maybe it's something I put back in. So that is my deck. Those are all my cards, and that's my strategy. I'm going to be pretty much putting my petitioners behind. They're going to go after the objectives. They're going to sit there. They're going to be going for my March of the Dead early on, hopefully, if I get that, just to move them in. They're going to be going for my Determined Defender. They're going to be going for my Supremacy and my Tactical Supremacies 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that's pretty much all my petitions are going to be there for. My other guys, my Harvester and my Champion, depending on what the upgrades I come out, and my Warden are going to be my main killy stabbers. And my Prince is pretty much going to stand in the middle of it all, just being Prince of Dust. I might give him the Shade Glass Shards, and then that way he can be much more annoying. As he has 3 wounds, he's going to be a little bit more survivable. But any of my guys who, once they get inspired, become a fair bit better. I mean, the Harvester hits everybody around him all the time. He rolls 3 swords once he's inspired and does 2 damage each. That could be pretty nasty against Sepulchral Guard or Khorne. My Champion, again, he rolls 3 dice once he becomes inspired. He rolls hammers and he does 2 damage. He also has Cleave, which could make him quite tasty, trying to put some wounds on Stormcast or Oryx if the situation should arise. The Prince, if he becomes inspired, rolls 3 hammers again, which is nice. It does 2 damage, which is also great, and has knockback 1. That could be much more useful once he's inspired, but I'm not really sure just how much I'm going to be bringing people back. It all depends on how much my opponent's gone on offense and how many people he chops to pieces, I guess. But in that situation, I have to be careful not to try and resurrect too many people, or else I'm just going to be giving away free glory all the time. It'll be interesting to see how this kind of deck plays once you're in a 3-game best of, because as with anything, once your opponent's seen you play the first game, they know what you're bringing to the table, and then they can adjust accordingly. And with an objective-based deck, you have the same play either way. So it'll be fun, it'll be interesting to see. I've never done a tournament before, and it'll be interesting to see how much of this deck remains after a few test games with Robin. So, let me know if you think I'm talking nonsense, let me know if you think any of the cards I've taken are a waste of space, or are, you know, tactical genius, because I'm willing to accept that as well. It's just as likely, right? It's just as likely. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you're coming to the Grand Clash. It'd be great to meet some of you guys there and say hello. It'll be brilliant if we manage to, you know, have a game against each other during the tournament as well. Of course, if that happens, you've listened to this, so I automatically win by default because I just showed you all about my deck and tactics. So, you know, I'll take that on as a moral win. So anyway, we'll see you later in the week for our best of 3 tournament match.